welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this one, make sure you hit that big red button down below. But today we're back with another preview. Some people have been enjoying these over the last couple of weeks, so make sure you hit that big like button as well. We're going to be talking about Portsmouth this time. Now, Portsmouth, a team who got promoted last season, and in our last game against them, which was, I think it was the opening day of the season, wasn't it? It was 3-3. A bit of an end-to-end game. But they've settled in more now to this season. They are out of the relegation zone and they are attempting to make their way to safety. So we're going to have a little bit of a look at the way that they play, and kind of we can understand then how Leeds might be able to combat that and play against them, which obviously Portsmouth are the team who are at home in this game, but Leeds will, I imagine, be the ones taking the game to them. So when we think about that, they set up in a 4-2-3-1 with the ball, and that's the kind of way that they will play when they do have the ball. When they don't have the ball, though, it looks much more like this. This is in the red is your Portsmouth team, and let's say that Leeds are playing it out from the back, and there's the ball with Joe Rodon. They actually set up in more of a 4-4-2 formation, which is actually not very rare. It's quite a common thing for people to do. There's a lot of teams in this league, and to be honest, in world football now, that play 4-2-3-1 because it's a good balance of all things. And a lot of them, especially in the Championship, revert into a 4-4-2 when they don't have the ball, and that's to do with a couple of things. If you're playing as a 4-2-3-1 and you're playing a bit more like this, that's more suited to pressing high up. So you've got your striker who can go to the centre backs, and you've got your number 10 who can come and mark the midfielders. But when you're not wanting to play a high pressing style of football, you're actually wanting to play more of a mid block, which we've seen a lot this season. You're going to want your striker to drop in alongside your number 10, as they've done here, to create a bit of a 4-4-2 formation so that they can go either way. Now, the way that Portsmouth specifically work when they do press and they do try and win the ball back is that whilst yes, it's a mid-block, they look to try and win the ball back in wide positions. So let's take this for example, because I've watched so many clips of Portsmouth now where I've seen this actually happen. Now, perfect example is here. Joe Rodon's got the ball, and his passing option, because this one might be marked off, his passing option then is really Jayden Bogle. So if he plays to Bogle, there's a couple of things that can happen here. Josh Murphy, the brother of Jacob Murphy, who plays for Newcastle, or at least he did at the last time I had any attention on his career, he comes across and he tries to mark this. Now, multiple times I've seen clips where Portsmouth have actually scored goals or come very close to scoring a goal from this, because when the ball is played out, obviously we talked about this years ago with Jesse Marsh, it's when the ball is being played, that's when the player starts to make his run towards there. And a lot of the time, against maybe lesser opposition, shall we say, Josh Murphy will nick in and get the ball there, and that's when they can come and break and go on the counter-attack. Before we go any further with that, though, let's just put that back there and get the ball back to Joe Rodon. Before we go any further with that, the day before yesterday, I did a video about Daniel Farke's system and the way it would work in the Premier League, and etc, etc. There's more in that video, you can go and watch that. But what I will say is that Leeds have a couple of ways to play through from the back, and one of those is to be the risk-taking ball and play right into whoever this is, Dan James, who's come into the half space here to collect the ball. That's one of the risk-taking passes that Leeds might make, and that's something that Leeds are going to have to do a lot in this game, because of what I've just said about the fact that a lot of the time that option might not even be on, because you might have had everybody slide over a little bit if the ball's on that side, and so your only option might be to pass it out to the fullback. So what Leeds need to be aware of is that they're going to have to support the fullback very much here. So, for example, if the ball comes in from Joe Rodon to Jayden Bogle, and then Josh Murphy goes and tries to press, you might see that Tanaka drops in here to win the ball back, which allows Bogle to spin and then get the ball back here. We've seen Leeds do that a lot this season, but it's something that we're going to have to be on point with, because Portsmouth that is, like to try and win the ball back in wide positions rather than try and press the two centre-backs when they have the ball and go like that. They like to sit in and slide across. When the ball goes over here, they will then press it and try and win the ball back, and that's when you can see counter-attacking opportunities. When we talk about that, when they do then have the ball and they do then attack, you might see that a fullback here, for example, will try and attack and overlap and help Josh Murphy out in those situations. What will happen if that happens is, instead of both fullbacks going like this, like what Leeds like to do, Portsmouth are more likely to have one fullback going at a time, and the other one on this side, which is, I think Ogilvie is usually there. He will tuck in and create a back three, so that when they do go up the pitch, they have a little bit more of a safe rest defence, so that if Leeds do win the ball back and then come back towards them, they've actually got 3 defenders here who can all tuck in and play their positions. So that's what you're likely to see. Whereas you see Leeds' 4-2-3-1 has both fullbacks high and wide at all times, with the wingers cutting into the half space, or the fullbacks going into the half space and the wingers going out wide. You will see in this situation, I think, that they will be a little bit more conservative with that. They'll stick a fullback inside to become a back 3. Now, the other thing that we're going to talk about is, when they do have the ball, they aim to create chances from these wide areas. And a lot of the time it involves the strikers. So, for example, you see them here. Let's have the fullback back here again. Let's say that Josh Murphy's just won the ball back off Jayden Bogle. Now, a lot of the time they will try to cut inside. They'll try to come inside and create chances from there. So rather than Josh Murphy going all the way down the line and crossing the ball into whoever may be in the box, it's actually more likely that Josh Murphy will have Rodon come across to try and stop him. And when he does, he cuts inside, and that's when he's looking for the pass to either of these players, either the number 10 or the striker as well, who will make that run inside. And I've seen it multiple times from their goals. He'll make that run inside. That's when Josh Murphy can play that pass. That's when he can shoot and score. The other danger is with Josh Murphy, and we're going into it here because Murphy is the danger man for them. We were going to talk about that later in the video, but this kind of sets up nicely anyway. Murphy, for me, is the danger man for them for a number of reasons. Number one, he's so quick at winning the ball back in those situations, and when he does cut inside, he's got those passing options. So his passing inside is his ability to get the ball in the box for those people who are making late runs into the box. The other thing as well is that if Josh Murphy is faced with a situation where he actually, you see Tanaka would drop in and Strout would maybe come across, he maybe is faced with a situation where he can't find a pass in the box, he's perfectly happy to have a shot. And I think it might have been against QPR, someone correct me if I'm wrong, not that anybody would have watched that game. It might have been against QPR, but he cut inside from a position like this and he bent it right into the top corner. So he's got that in his locker. He's definitely got the ability to shoot from distance. So Leeds need to be aware of his ability to pass the ball inside and also his ability to shoot from distance, which will mean that Leeds will have to ensure that they are ready and waiting to block those shots as well. The other thing is Josh Murphy, I don't need to show you this, but his set piece taking as well. Like I said, his crossing and his passing is good, but his set piece taking is really good as well. So Leeds need to be really careful on these corners when they do get whipped into the box, that they aren't standing stationary and Meslier isn't flapping at things. We need to be very aware of their set piece taking. So that's kind of the way that they defend, the way that they attack, and a little bit about how Leeds might be able to combat that. Of course, playing at home, you say, okay, well, they have a fair bit of confidence because they're playing at home, but you also got to consider that they are playing against Leeds United, who are top of the league at the moment still. And so when you have a situation like this, they may not be willing to commit a fullback as far forward in this game. So you may see that Josh Murphy, whilst he's probably one of their best players, if not their best player, he might actually struggle a little bit in some of these situations because he's not going to have as much support. He'll have the 2 strikers, but with Leeds having a midfielder that they can drop in here, Leeds might be able to kind of, when they are on the defence, pack back in a little bit, and because they aren't willing to commit as many men forward in a situation where they're playing against Leeds, we might see that they struggle a little bit and they get isolated in wide areas and aren't able to get the ball in, which obviously then when Leeds win the ball back, it might be a more difficult proposition to go up the other end and score, because let's say that Bogle's just won it back. He plays it into Dan James. His option is maybe out wide here and then to come and attack. But when you actually look at Leeds, even when they start to flood forward, and that would include them as well, even when they start to flood forward, there's still going to be a wall of blue shirts in front of them. So it's important that we are able to take advantage of those counter-attacking situations I do think we're going to dominate a lot of the ball. So you may see them sat in kind of a little bit deeper in a 4-4-2, a little bit like this, with basically saying, come on then, come and break us down. But with the sheer numbers that we will have in our attack, as we usually do, if that's Peru in there and Aronson kind of floating around, Solomon, and then Firpo, and then you've got your holding midfielders in these situations here, and then you've got the centre backs on the halfway line with Meslier kind of just outside the edge of his box. If you look at that, it does look quite daunting to try to break that down, but we just need to make sure that we do the basics, do the things that we do well, and that's creating that room for those half spaces, whether that be drawing him in, getting the ball back and firing it into these spaces here with Dan James with space to run in behind, whether that's trying to open them up a little bit, trying to kind of counteract their mid block by playing the ball over the top, a few lofted balls over the top, just to try and mix it up a little bit. It remains to be seen how that will work out, but I think we've got this one in the bag. I'm not going to go for a score prediction, but I am going to say I think Leeds are going to win this one. Portsmouth obviously aren't the best team, but they have a set of tactics. Their only limitations really are their players, and I think this is going to be a good game of football to watch. I think it might be, I saw Andrea saying it might be a bit of a dirty game as well, so we've got that to look forward to maybe. But that's going to be it for this preview. Let me know what you think down in the description below. If you're enjoying these previews, let me know. And yeah, thanks for watching Leeds Lately, and I'll see you in the next one.